What's up, everyone? It's Warren.
And it's Chris.
And the reviews for The Rise of Skywalker are in, and they are...
something.
They are something. So, in this video, we're going to go over what the critics are saying about The Rise of Skywalker. So, Metacritic.com has 53 reviews, and for the most part, they're overall pretty good, leaning towards the good side at least.
I think for the most part, it is very up and down having scrolled through them real quick. I haven't read any of them yet, but they're either like, oh my gosh, this movie had everything it needed to finish the series, and then some of them are just really bad.
Yeah.
So
some of them are bad. So we're going to give you some of the good, some of the mixed feelings, and some of the bad, and we'll end on a good note, of course. But out of 53 critics, 17 of them said that it was positive, 34 mixed feelings about it, and only 2 had really negative responses.
So let's go through them and see if we can get you guys ready for the huge release of Star Wars tomorrow. One of the tops says, the movie snaps together like a jigsaw puzzle. A series of concluding beats that seem inevitable and perfect, and designed to please all parties, so long as you don't dwell on the logic too much.
It's a Star Wars film. Now, of course, there is logic within the Star Wars universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a Star Wars film. It's lightsabers and the Force, so it's not real. So I would take it for what it is, right?
Mm-hmm. There are a couple things, and these are huge arguments to go back and forth about. It's a movie, watch it and enjoy it,
right.
Or it's a lifestyle, you know?
Star Wars. I get that, right? Because as the fans that we are, we want it to be good and we want it to fit with what we expect it to fit. But I'm not going to be overcritical of this movie.
No, that's 100% accurate. And I think what he's talking about when he's like, don't dwell on the logic too much. I mean, one of the biggest things that just always sticks in my head, because I've heard so many different complaints about the acting, about the characters, and none of that has really bothered me.
Yeah.
Some of the things that kind of have hurt my Star Wars loving soul has been a little bit of that logic. Like, for example, in the last one, when out of nowhere, Rey can just move 300 boulders like nothing without any training, but it took Luke 3 months of training in a swamp with Yoda to learn how to lift a lightsaber.
Yeah, but that's not even necessarily logic. That's just like, she's stronger in the Force.
And that's where the argument comes in. Maybe she's just stronger and more in tune.
Right.
Or maybe they were just rushing it because they needed it. And that's where all the, I didn't like the movie. But the thing to notice is regardless, he gave it 100. So even with those like logic plot holes potentially,
that bad.
He's just like, if you don't dwell on it,
Right.
it's still a good movie.
We enjoyed the movie, even without that logic there. So, the next one, let's see. Variety. Variety said The Rise of Skywalker is, to me, the most elegant, emotionally rounded, and gratifying Star Wars adventure since the glory days of Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, that, but given the last 8 films, the bar isn't really that high.
Overall score of 80.
Overall score of 80, and that's coming from Variety, and that's something to say. The most elegant of all the Star Wars, emotionally rounded and gratifying.
What do you think elegant means when we talk about Star Wars, though? Like that it tied the story together really nicely,
That,
maybe?
I would say that it tied the story together because, remember, the Skywalker saga, right? The ending of the Skywalker saga, supposedly.
That's what they're saying.
So that's what I would think elegant would mean. They pay tribute to Leia, to Carrie Fisher. Obviously, she's gone now. To Luke, to the Jedi. Everything, I really think. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was pretty nice words.
That was a good one.
They seem to like it.
So now we're getting a little bit lower into the mixed reviews. We'll go to CNN. The Rise of Skywalker feels like a welcome course correction. That's good. Featuring sequences and references that more cynical minds will dismiss as fan service, but which derive emotion and power precisely from the bond and investment the audience has forged, not just with this permutation on the story, but all of it going back to the original trilogy. That's nice.
So that's kind of what I think when I thought about this as the last one of this trilogy that has been kind of bumpy for some people, not for everybody.
Right.
But that's exactly what I thought they would be going for, exactly what was explained here. It's like, it's a welcome course of correction. Like, whether the movies are good or not, a good majority of diehard Star Wars fans aren't happy.
And that's why they talk about the course correction and fan service. But they're more likely to do fan service in this film because people are so dissatisfied with how it's been. And people said that about Avengers Endgame, right? Like, Avengers Endgame was for the fans. It's like, okay, well, why do you make movies?
Exactly. That's who it's for. It's for the people, and the people have spoken.
Right.
And I don't know how many is the actual percentage of people who are dissatisfied.
Right.
And it usually turns out the loudest voice is
the 1%ers.
Exactly. So, and it's nice that what they say about the fan service, and something that a lot of people will be upset about, is that it still derives the emotion.
Right.
And that power that they'll give you that. When you think of Star Wars, whether you watched that as a kid, as you watched it as an adult, however, really, there is this kind of feeling inside.
Connection to it. You have an emotional connection to Star Wars.
And whether they're doing it as a fan service, if they're doing it for this movement, for that reason, whatever, as long as that feeling is there, as you watch the movie and you're like, yes, this is it. It feels like a Star Wars movie. That means you're doing something right. So CNN dropping in with a 75.
Yep.
And that's where I think a good majority of the nicer comments are. They're at that 75-80 range.
Yeah,
so
most of them. So go down. No, we'll go down to
we'll go more mid-range.
Yeah.
Empire. So that's a pretty big group of people.
Empire.
They said it looks gorgeous, offers strong performances from Driver and Ridley in particular, but ultimately the saga ends with neither a bang nor a whimper, but something in between.
So people are going to judge this harshly because it is the final one, right? It's the end of the Skywalker saga. So you expect it to have an Avengers Endgame. Everybody's going to come out and fight at once. It's going to be this grand big thing. There's going to be a huge sacrifice and it's going to be big. According to Empire, it's not that big. Just one review.
No, but and Empire, they're pretty in there as far as movies go. They have a lot of the scoops. They give us a lot of the first looks.
They have the first looks.
So I don't think they're biased in any way. And I think it's something that I've realized recently while watching. I've been watching TV shows and movies, long, huge things. You got Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Marvel, all of these huge things. There is no good way to end it. I think it's kind of hard. I loved Endgame. Yeah. It's not my favorite Marvel movie because it's done, and at the end you're just kind of begrudging, like, oh, this is the end,
There's still a good way to end things.
There are good ways to end it. Like Game of Thrones could have done better.
Yeah, but everybody.
But at the end of the day, the 8th season is never going to be somebody's favorite because it's the middle. It's when you're in it. It's the moment. You have to end it somehow. And yes, there's doing it well and there's doing it wrong. But I think generally speaking, for the population, ending it is just hard. Not because it's a hard task, but because it's hard emotionally for the fans to accept that it's done.
Yeah, but that shouldn't affect how good the movie is, which I think it will for a lot of people.
That's the point. It shouldn't, but it 100% does. And I think that's what Empire is even getting at. They're just like, it doesn't end really great, really bad, but it's like an ending.
Right.
And whether that actually judges on whether the movie is good or not.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell.
There is a way to go out with a bang, though, I think. Like, they killed Tony Stark. Literal bang.
Yeah, almost. and there's a lot of people who like love Endgame because of it, but then if you sit there and think about it, it's like it's done. It's like he's gone. Like it's super sad, and it's kind of hard to deal with. All right, go ahead. We got time. A bit on the lower scale now. We're under the average. They give it a 40.
Yeah. He said, this overloaded finale. And I've heard this a lot. I've heard they stuffed a lot into this. But this overloaded finale, directed by J.J. Abrams, is for everybody and nobody. A movie that's sometimes reasonably entertaining, but that mostly feels reverse engineered, to ensure that the feathers of the Star Wars purist remain unruffled. In its anxiety not to offend, it comes off more like fan fiction than the creation of actual professional filmmakers. A bot would be able to pull off a more surprising movie. Wow.
Oof. So this sounds a little bit more like the first review we read, but with a little bit more of a jab in it. Right. This is cleaning up. This is a kind of a botch job. You're cleaning up everything, and I don't like it. They were like, you're cleaning up everything, and it was well done. This is like, you're cleaning everything up, and you did a bad job.
It was almost like they played it too safe. They were scared because the first two weren't well received, and they played this one too safe. That's why the other ones say like the fan fiction, or this one says fan fiction, the other one says fan service. It's almost like, I think it's like they really appealed to the fans.
That's exactly what they were saying. Not to rattle the feathers of the Star Wars purists.
Right.
Those are the people that are like, what the heck is going on here?
Right.
And it sounds like they really kind of took all that to heart as they were making this movie, and they're like, all right, well, let's just you know, good guys are gonna win. I
let's-
don't know. No
yeah.
spoiler. I don't have a clue, but
Yeah,
here's how it's
we're
gonna
avoiding
end.
spoilers.
Trying to make you have the happiness that you're looking for. So
Right.
we're gonna end it, and time doesn't sound too happy about it.
No.
And here we have 40, 40, 40, 40, 44. Like all these people
Right.
here probably feeling the same thing. So it's gonna be, it seems to me, a huge toss-up between. Here's how they tried to clean it up. Did you like it? Are you okay with it? Or here's how they tried to clean it up. Are you disappointed with it?
Yeah.
That's what it really seems like they're going for at the
Yeah.
end here. Let's drop down. We're getting into the two, this was a waste of my time comments.
So the two worst comments.
And one comes from Vox and one comes from Slant.
So we'll start with Slant because it's the second to last worst one.
With a 38, it says, the film, hyper aware of the shadow cast by the franchise history, struggles to both honor and redeem the past before everything comes to a close.
Wow.
So straight and to the point, and it comes straight to the point. And again, it comes back to what I was saying about the cast is doing this wrong, the story is doing this wrong, and they're just saying this is not redeeming, this is trash.
Right. And so, and that just, keep in mind this is all personal opinion. You should go see the movie no matter what.
Make your own opinion.
Yes, make your own opinion. Now, you can just see here, the best comment was like, this was a great job, paid service to the fans, the acting was blah, 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 blah. And this one's like, it's horrible, right? It didn't do service, it didn't close anything really, really well. And it's not very long, it's like a sentence long. Struggles to both honor and redeem the past before everything comes to a close. That's pretty harsh. And let's go to Vox.
All right, go ahead, man.
So, The Rise of Skywalker falls somewhere between an overstuffed, again, which we talked about, between an overstuffed fan service finale and a yawn fest. If The Force Awakens kicked off a new cycle in the franchise and The Last Jedi set it up to push beyond its familiar patterns, The Rise of Skywalker, for the most part, runs screaming in the other direction.
Wow. So this one's interesting.
That's pretty harsh.
Like, gives credit to the first two, and it says that this was even worse.
Yeah, I guess it's fair, but it's all how you interpret
the
that
mindset.
other direction,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the correction. It's the same thing. And running the other direction is the same thing as correcting the first two, right? And that's why it goes in the other way. So it all depends on, I guess, how you felt about the first two. And again, make up your own opinion about this. There's clearly going to be some big changes made from the first two.
Yeah. Kind of sounds to me, and this is just by what we read, that if you liked the first two,
You
you
won't,
won't be
this
happy
one.
with this one.
Right.
If you didn't like the first two,
This one's
you
for
might
you.
be okay with this one.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
still, you might not be, but you have a chance.
Right.
So,
One thing I haven't heard, which is really good, is no one has said yet the plot was predictable.
that's overstuffed,
Overstuffed.
but not predictable.
Right, and so I've read a lot of reviews on Twitter that have said things like, it's just a whole bunch of different emotions. And I've read that the first part of the movie is just a lot to take in. And that's what people say by it's overstuffed. It's a lot to take in. But they say overall, a lot of the reviews on Twitter have been satisfying.
And a lot of the ones that I've seen on Twitter were about, like, the emotion side of it.
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be a lot of emotion in this movie.
Which is what, personally, I'm excited for. Because like I was saying earlier, that's what it is. If I sit down in a Star Wars movie and I can feel the movie,
Right.
like, this is it, this is like the rest of them, then that's what's going to do it for me. And that was my only reserve about the other ones. They were visually wonderful. The
Yeah.
acting was okay. The fight scenes were okay.
Yeah.
It was just missing a little something for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an opinion. But it sounds like they really, really put the effort out to hit the mark on that, to strike that emotional chord so that you're like, oh yeah, this is Star Wars.
Right.
So the story, you don't have control over how it ends. You know, it's done.
Yeah.
So it's sit down, enjoy, this is how it happens. I mean, if we're looking at it logically, we're watching history. You can't change it anyway because it's a long, long time ago. But
Flash in the future.
yeah, you got to look for the emotion, and you've got to kind of feel that, like, I'm watching a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I like the emotion. I don't like kind of what you were saying. I actually don't like how Rey was just able to fight Kylo Ren.
No, that was exactly what I was saying. Like, oh, all of a sudden you're just like a freaking Jedi Master Star.
Right.
It's like you've never even held a lightsaber
And
before.
I get
and that's the
that-
logic.
Right, but I get, like, you talk about midichlorians and the blood. I get that some people are more force-tuned than the other naturally, and I understand that, and we don't know where Rey's from yet. We don't know who she is yet. There's so many different theories. Like she's a clone of Palpatine, just a female version. Like we have no idea yet.
No, there's so much, but
that'll be explained.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a super skilled.
Right.
You know, even Anakin, who didn't even have a dad because his dad was the Force,
right.
had to learn how to use a lightsaber.
Right.
It took him a while, but eventually he learned it.
And I mean, he really, he still wasn't better than his master, Obi-Wan.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's the logic, and that's exactly going back to the first comment.
Yeah.
You know, if you can look past that. Because obviously, Rey isn't going to go back and unlearn how to use a lightsaber.
Right.
But then, oh wait, let's train you real quick. You've already defeated Kylo Ren twice, but let's train you real. That's not going to happen.
But the reason I brought that up is I want better lightsaber battles because I wasn't necessarily. It's not that I wasn't happy because she was able to keep up with Kylo. I just didn't feel like it was enough. I wanted bigger.
Well, even Kylo himself, I think there's more for him to offer.
Right. I think there's a lot more Force abilities to use. That's another thing is there aren't really.
Did I get you?
There aren't really that many Force abilities used. I mean, Leia used hers to bring herself back into the ship. Apparently, she can.
Kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie.
Breathe in outer space and survive. Didn't freeze to death. But there's not really that many Force abilities that have been used. So that's what I want more. I'm sure Palpatine's gonna throw some Force lightning at us.
I'm excited for that. But that's what it is. We've read some of the reviews. Everybody's gonna have an opinion. So
bottom line is, find your own.
Go
watch the movie. Don't let people deter you from seeing this movie. We're going to see it tomorrow night. We'll definitely have a review for you tomorrow night as well on it.
All right, guys. So let me know what you think down below. I know everybody has an opinion on it. Huge topic right now. Are you excited to see the movie? We know you're going to, so don't even tell us you're not.
No spoilers in the comments if you've seen the movie. If you're in the UK and it's already came out, and if you see it tomorrow night, no spoilers in the comment section, please.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us to the end. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to stay up to date on all the new movies coming out. We have a lot of exciting content coming your way. This has been Cosmic Culture.